JC. We are live. Welcome to another edition of The Bright Side with your host Howie Craw and Dr. JC Dornick, aka Dragon. How are you, Dragon?
I'm doing great, man. And I'm always excited. You know, it's funny. We've been getting a lot of positive feedback. I think a lot of people like the idea of seeing the bright side of life, learning some skills and tools with us. But selfishly for myself, because, you know, what's interesting when you're listening to podcasts and watching videos and stuff, as a viewer, you kind of look at it and say, oh, what are they going to say for me today? But I enjoy this, you know, I enjoy when you and I just have conversations. But I love the idea of how we come here with this universal idea of looking at the bright side of things, and we get to have a conversation. It's therapeutic for me. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. And you know, what I just said to you and Jess right before we got on is we survived yesterday, which, you know, there was so much anticipation leading up. And you said something that, like, we still don't know and what it's creating for people. So repeat what you said to me. It made a lot of sense.
It's a very interesting exercise that we've gone through because once again, the main goal in life is to become conscious of things. And I think that we unconsciously got sucked into propaganda and media. Part of me choosing the bright side is I am actually not going to choose a political side while we're talking right now, whether I have one or not. But I just want everybody to observe how yesterday everybody kind of got sucked into this race. And, you know, what I was saying to Chicken while the TV was on, because we never watch TV, we would never watch the news, as you know. But she's into the political race. So I was just watching, and I go, "Are you aware that these news channels need you to watch their show for, you know, ratings and all that stuff?" And people think that they got to watch this thing that watching it beyond your vote gives you some sort of pull or something like that. And here we are. The next day, you went to sleep, you woke up thinking you'd wake up and find out the results and hope that they were yours. But here we are. There's nothing's changed, nothing new, except your level of anxiety has gone up. So it's an interesting concept to look at the political debate right now. Win or lose, meaning your candidate wins or loses. How can you choose to see the bright side of things, right?
Yeah. And don't always make it easier to see the bright side because, like you just said, the news is a business. And behind that business is ratings, and behind the ratings is advertising. And so they're going to feed the monster whatever they need to feed it. And I think that you used a great word there, anxiety. So, you know, I think on the other side of anxiety, we could use a word like change. How do you change that narrative to get to the bright side?
Yeah. Well, you know, before we get into change, let's talk a little bit about anxiety. Let's talk a little bit about things like anxiety. Everybody just assess feelings of like anxiety, concern, frustration, fear, anger, all of those things. So right now, with or without the political thing, with the pandemic and all this, there's a lot of angst and anxiety, and there's a lot of fear and a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of change going on right now. So one of the tools that I learned a long time ago, and I learned it through Stoicism and Buddhism and things like that, was I started to wonder, like, what causes those feelings of anxiety and angst and all that stuff. And I realized it was one thing correlated to all of those feelings is when you, as a human being, were involved unconsciously in trying to control something that's out of your control. So the political race would be an example of it. We get so worried about the outcome or excited about the potential outcome, so we vote. You know, I did mine. Did you vote, Howie?
Yes, absolutely.
I voted, and Chicken, who hasn't gotten her citizenship, was there with me, so she felt like she voted. And I didn't really have too much say in what I voted for. I just did what she told me to do, as I always do. But my point is that besides placing your vote and doing your part, how much control do you really have over it? So that's why there's angst whenever you feel those feelings. So a great tool that'll help arm you to see the bright side of things would be to recognize when you have those feelings, feel them, right? It's okay to have feelings. Feelings come in, and I always say feelings are like a wave. When you start to get the feeling, it's like the wave's approaching, and then allow the feeling to happen, and then the wave will always crash and it'll resolve, it'll go up on the beach, and you'll wait for your next feeling. But identify that the feeling, one of those feelings is associated with you feeling out of control because you can't control anything. So what you said about change, what's interesting about change is there are different types of change. Sometimes we fear change, but sometimes we understand that we should embrace change, and we also desire changing of our situation. But where does change lie, right? The change that all of us desire lies on the other side of challenge.
Yeah.
Right? So is anybody feeling a little challenged lately? So what I love to say, and I do a lot of writing in this, isn't it mysterious? By the way, choosing to see the bright side is all about first identifying some things that are going on unconsciously, because it arms you to be able to see the bright side. Because most of the time the voice in our head, the critic, is lying to us. But isn't it interesting how God, the universe, whatever it is that you see as a higher power, has mysteriously placed everything that we desire on the other side of a pile of shit? Right? So that's the solution. What's that?
I said it or fear.
Yeah.
Everything I wanted is always on the other side of fear.
So let me show you something. I'll tell you what happens on the other side of it. But do you remember the movie Fast Times at Ridgemont High?
I do.
What, good memory or bad memory?
Remember a lunchroom scene or something, right? Something happened.
What a classic movie. So one of our listeners and people send the dragon stuff all the time. I got these like original Spicoli shoes that are collector's item. They say Fast Times at Ridgemont High on them. So how cool is that? Does anybody out there remember Donnie says great movie. Anybody remember Fast Times at Ridgemont High? That was actually one of Matthew McConaughey's first movies, right? I don't know if you knew that. So
by the way, it's Matthew's birthday today. So
a
shout out to Matthew today on his birthday.
Is that right? So I guess that's why that showed up today. But what's interesting about what I just did is, while I just showed you those shoes and talked about Matthew McConaughey, did you forget about the political thing for just a second?
Absolutely.
Right? So what that shows you is that where energy goes, right? And where attention goes, energy flows. So maybe sometimes we just need to change things up a little bit, shake it up.
You know, speaking of Matthew McConaughey, though, can you hear me, or is it bouncing back? Because John's saying that he's having a problem.
I can hear you.
Okay, fine. So,
John, don't worry. I'll tell you everything that Howie says later.
But watching his early days, he's always been really a good guy, a stand-up guy who's all about family, faith, and hard work. And they kept asking him who his hero is.
Right.
And he said, it's myself in 10 years. And then 10 years later, when he got there, who's your hero? Myself in 10 years. He always wanted to be a better version of himself, a better husband, a better father, a better son. And interesting guy. You know, Noodleberg covered him today. That's why I know so much about his history. And just a really thoughtful, hardworking, smart, and a guy who gives back.
Yeah, I love that.
He's the right guy.
He's a super funny guy, super talented guy, but I think appropriate for our show. I think he he's a guy that people seem to like, and he plays great roles, and seems like somebody that I'd love to meet. The only problem with him, though, there is a problem with him. I'm going to go to the dark side for a second. Is that if he shows up at the door, we lose our women that day.
Absolutely.
Right? That's one of those things you just got to say, hey, I understand. It's Matthew McConaughey. If I was you, I would do that too, you know. Anyway, so I was talking about something fun this morning on my podcast. It hasn't loaded yet, but as you know, I've been really writing a lot lately, and by the way, that's a shout out. Howie and I spoke last time about our morning routines, and a big part of my morning routine is journaling, and it's interesting because you don't think, when you journal every day, you don't think about the compound of it. Now, what I do is I either write, or I get in my iPhone when I get an idea, and I just go into my notes section and I type. So I was getting ready to kick off a new season with Rise Up with Dragon. So I took my phone and I printed all of my Rise Ups, not knowing how many there were. I figured there was like maybe 10 or 15, but I had 160 of them. So I just want to show, you know, the people that are watching this live, this is what 160 Rise Ups looks like, right? And they're all full page, right? What's interesting is that without even knowing it, I wrote a book.
But here's the thing, too, just so they know, Rise Up during the pandemic, and maybe before, but that's where we really met,
Yep.
is a morning live Facebook video that you then take to a podcast.
Exactly.
So for those that don't know about it, it's on at 8 a.m. Monday to Friday on your Facebook page. But what's really cool about it is that when you are writing and you journal and you do that, you end up with so much content. And it's shareable content, and then it's content, when you look back on it, it's so great that you journaled it and wrote it, because it's there for you. If you just try and keep it all up here, somehow it vanishes in the cracks.
Well, that right there is a huge breakthrough for people, because today my Rise Up in the podcast was called Let Yo Crazy Out. And I was just poking a little bit of fun at the fact that we're all crazy. You're crazy, Howie. That's what I love about you. And we're all crazy because we all have these crazy ideas and thoughts and things like that. And I just think we need to let our crazy out a little bit more. You know, that's why I like to wear fun clothes and do crazy things and everything. But adverse or converse to that, when you're not letting your crazy out, you're conforming to that of the herd, right? So in the idea, looking at like, how do we arm ourselves to see the bright side of things? So like to choose to stay on path when adversity happens, to turn lemons into lemonade, to turn water into wine, right, Howie? Well, for one thing, you have to be able to understand that that's abnormal in this world. It's abnormal to choose to take a left instead of a right. You know, we have social distancing, but we also have social herding, and we've all been programmed what is right, what is wrong. We all are herding and stampeding in one way and conforming. So if you take one step off track, everybody says, what the hell is Howie doing, right? So it's very, very hard to take a left instead of a right. But when it comes to these ideas in your head, right, if you don't write those things down, just like you said, they'll disappear. And you'll also create this situation where you keep allowing things to disappear. A lot of those ideas you have are genius, but if they're in your head and you don't write them down, you're going to forget about them. But when you write them down, like I've done, what you do is you explain them to yourself, you unpack them, and then you start to take ownership of them, right? And here's one quick funny thought for you and our listeners. I'm going to prove to everybody that we're crazy, right? So I just want everybody to think about right now the fact that you, Howie, me, Amber behind the scenes, everybody watching this show, under our clothes, we're all completely buck naked right now. So if you think about it, we're all walking around the world completely naked, like crazy people, but we cover it up with clothes. Now, I'm not telling everybody to go streaking right now, right? Hey, smoke them if you got them. But what I'm saying is that's an example, and a potentially good one, of how we do things because we were taught to do things. We were programmed to do things. So how many other aspects of your life are you covering up with clothes, right? And conforming? Because to choose to see the bright side today, tomorrow, is going to require that you shake some things up. And I say proverbially, let your crazy out. Make sense?
Yeah, I like to say shake the trees. Shaking the trees, same thing. I mean, if using your analogy with clothes, if you're going to want to change something, change your clothes.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're not talking about taking them off and streaking and all that, but it is really important. I think the power of writing, when you repeat what you write, the universe has a way to find that to you. And so again, if it's a thought in your head, that's great. But if it's something that you put to paper and you make a commitment to keep putting that to paper, things happen. And, you know,
love the way you say paper.
Paper.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. And like I said, when you write it down, because I remember Howie came and stayed with me, and as everybody knows, he does the Howie, doing it, and he's always at 7 a.m. I think you.
Right.
But I watched Howie. It's interesting when Dragon and Howie spent some time like living in the same. We watch how that happens, and he takes his note. Howie doesn't type; he likes to write. He writes all this stuff down, and he goes through this whole sequence and everything like that. But that's what it is you get this idea. There you go. You get this idea, and when you write it down, you explain it to yourself, and as Howie just said, you also sell it to the universe. I'm going to drop a cool concept on you that I spoke about on my podcast this morning. It is, Howie, do you know what artificial intelligence is?
Of course.
Okay. So artificial intelligence, as most of the listeners would identify, it refers to the fact that there's like robots or computer programs that have the ability to adapt and have conversations with you just like a human being. But it's called artificial intelligence because it was created, it was man-made and programmed, right? So I'm going to go ahead and just challenge everybody to recognize that the person you're looking at in the mirror, including me and Howie, we are all artificially intelligent. We are artificial intelligent beings. And here's how I can prove it to you. Who programmed your program? Right? When you go out today and you decide what up is and what down, good day, bad day, happy, sad, somebody says something mean and you react, can't we all agree that we're programmed a certain way by our programmers, our mother, father, teacher, and preacher? So if you think about it, we're all artificially intelligent. So if you embrace that idea and you can just grab onto it, what do we have to do to wake up? We have to catch ourselves and catch glimpses of glitches in the matrix. Are you following me on this for a second?
I'm with you.
So I mean, some of our listeners might have to do an edible or something like that right now. But here's how you catch a glimpse or a glitch in the matrix. Have you ever caught yourself saying something that you didn't mean to say?
You want to take it back.
Right? So that you put your foot in your mouth or something like that. Or have you ever caught yourself having an idea and not stopping to think about it because you went and did something that doesn't even matter, like go to work or something like that? Those are proof positive that you are running a program that was programmed from somebody else. So another cool thing is if you want to evolve into a new version of yourself, shake it up. Let your crazy out. Take a step to the left. Wake up 5 minutes early. Wear 2 different socks. Do just something different, and you will step into a new arena of play that you didn't know exist. And that's where the magic is.
Absolutely. Stepping into a new arena of play. That's where the change is. Mm-hmm. So like you just mentioned, different socks or taking that left. A lot of times it's putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation, right? Because when you're programmed and you keep doing everything the same way, when it's time to make that left, you're going to feel uncomfortable, bringing your crazies out, right?
And where does growth take place?
What?
And where does growth take place?
In the uncomfortable zone.
Right.
And that place where you're shaking the trees, bringing your crazy out, or trying to just make things different.
Yeah.
And that is, so what stops people? Let's just say that hat you're wearing. I'm not used to wearing a hat like that, right? I'm more of a baseball hat guy, right? So if I would go now and grab my one fedora and wear it, it's different. Will I feel as comfortable?
Yeah.
And why don't I wear that when I walk out the door?
Yeah. I'm telling you, this is a gift, everybody. Esther says she's totally following us, and Terry says that her mind is blown. I'll take that as you guys understand what it is that I just said. But here's a real simple thing. Go about your day tomorrow. Remember, the only reason we're talking about this stuff is by, like, as Howie says, shaking the trees, taking a left instead of a right, getting up 5 minutes early. What you're doing is you're just shaking things up so you can step into this place that you've never been. It's like you're following this path, and it's like every now and then you want to take like a scenic route just to see what happens there. That's where growth takes place. And if it's not uncomfortable, it's not worth your time. But here's what I'm saying. If you take that idea of just shaking things up, recognize that the universe, as you were saying, is always watching. See, I believe the universe is in full favor of all of us having everything that we desire. It gives us what we need to proceed when we're all in. So how can I let the universe know tomorrow morning? How can you guys that are listening, how can you let the universe know tomorrow that things are going to be different? Well, the universe is trained to believe you're going to do the same thing tomorrow that you did today. You do the same thing every day. You're creatures of habit. You wake up at the same time. You get mad at the same things. You get happy. You get sad at the same things. So the universe is bored with you guys, and it doesn't know how to supply you with the stuff, right? If you shake things up, if you just got up at 5 minutes early tomorrow, the universe is going to go, what the hell's going on? The universe, wait, it's like he's breaking the rules. You're going to make the universe notice you. I love to do that. That's what it means for me, Howie, to shake the trees. And you know what's really uncomfortable for me to do is public speak. Ever since I was young, I used to get anxiety and panic about public speaking. So that's why I became a public speaker, is to shake things up. And by living in that area, I know that I'm shaking things up. So whenever something happens, I choose to look at it in a different way.
Another word that we used before to get to the other side of the pile of shit is to challenge yourself. So if it's getting up 5 minutes earlier and you challenge yourself to do it for 7 days this week, I'm going to get up 5 minutes early. We'll talk about what to do the second week. Give yourself a goal for that first week. Whatever it is, we're, as health coaches, we're always dealing with people in terms of weight loss and healthy habits and mental transformation, but it happens one little step at a time. And I think that's where people get frustrated, is they want it to change in a nanosecond. And it doesn't work like that. It takes a consistent effort, a commitment. The word commitment too, I was listening to a podcast. Sure, I'm going to make a commitment to get up 5 minutes earlier every day. The other side of that is I'm going to make a commitment not to hit my snooze bar. Different way to look at it. So the commitment works on both sides to get you the change. And on that side of change, I think we could all agree what's on the top left up there is the bright side.
The bright side. Yeah. And also just acknowledge that there is a bright side, right? When, what is it? Winston Churchill says is it's hard to negotiate with a lion when your head is in its mouth, right? So when you're experiencing the dark side, and we both have, right? When you're in the dark, it's hard to see the light. Right? So sometimes you have to create the light and find the light. So just acknowledging that the bright side exists is important, because then you start to look for it. And if you begin to look for the first thing I do when I'm in the dark is I start to look for the light. And the way I look for the light is I look for the lesson. I look for the meaning. Why is this happening for me, as we say? It's not happening to me, the lights are off. Why is this happening for me? What's the lesson? Where do I go? But the reason why I'm looking for it is because I know it exists, and that's a choice. We heard, we're reading that book Limitless from Jim Quick, and I loved what he said in his book, and he mentioned it the other day. He was just talking about, the secret of life is this. He summed it up at the end. He goes, in between the letters B and D are the letters C. B stands for birth, D stands for death. So it's all about the choices we make. So the bright side is not something you just hope exists. It's something you choose to say it exists. I say it exists. So if you're the kind of person that loves to see the dark side and loves to complain, you're going to hate the dragon, because the dragon always looks for the bright side.
It's a nicer place to live for sure.
But it's a lot of work, though. It's a lot of work.
It does. It's going against the grain. It's taking the left. It's making lemonades out of lemon. It's everything we talked about. But it is totally, as we see time and time again, it's doable. Just like anything. It feels good to be on the bright side, but it takes work to acknowledge it, feel it, see it, and stay there. Because we're constantly being drawn to go to that other side. That's what sells. That's what we're watching.
That's what sells, man. You got that right. That's not the bright side.
No, I mean, what sells? What are the top stories on the news when you get there?
I wouldn't
know. Stopped and helped somebody with a flat tire on the side of the road and helped them go to the grocery store and drove them home, or XYZ carjacked a car. Which story is going to lead at the news?
Yeah. Funny you just said flat tire, because Chicken and I we like to just get in the car and drive sometimes, and we don't really like to have to know where we're going. And we went to we found some random coffee shop, and when we came out, what's that?
You got out of the car.
So what do you mean? Oh yeah, we drove to this. We just randomly checked out a new coffee shop, and when we got to the coffee shop, we had a nice coffee, and we came out. And when we came out, she goes, "Oh no, your tire's flat." And I got the run flat tires, but you can kind of see. So I go in, and it's at 0%. So here I am with my fancy car, and I got a flat tire. So here's the test. Thank you for the blessing of the challenge to see the bright side. And here's the thing that happened is I said, "Hey, it's no big deal. We got run flats, and I'll figure it out. I'll take it in." And I looked up, and it's just random that we chose a coffee shop that was right down the street from the dealership that I bought the car. Totally didn't know. So I just pulled it in. They said, "We'll give you a loaner car," and we go. Boom. It didn't ruin my day. So what a wonderful way to live. So I'll just close up, my words with one quick thing you can do tomorrow is wherever you're going tomorrow, show up early. Whether it's getting up early, show up early. And when you get there, you will see something that you wouldn't have seen prior. And that's fun. I like to be curious and say, I wonder what I'm going to find out by getting there early. But the other thing is that if you're the kind of person right now, just like most human beings, and you've got this feeling inside of you that's saying, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to continue to lick the lollipop of mediocrity and suck forever, right? And you just have this burning desire to shift. The easiest way to shift is not to go read a book and not to listen to these two schmoes talk. It's start with a physical shift. Start with a physical shift, because only on a healthy body rests a healthy mind. It's the flaw in personal growth. So if you're the kind of person that wants to activate and move into place, everything that we're talking about is done on this program that Howie coaches. So if anybody out there wants to take this and actually go into action, have a conversation with Howie about it, because his program works unbelievable wonders. But I want to challenge everybody not to go out and get into personal growth without taking care of your temple, because only on a healthy body rests a healthy mind.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, JC. And it's so much fun working with people through the transformation. It's funny, last week I went to the Grand Canyon and I challenged myself to the rim to rim, which is a really challenging hike from the top of the North Rim to the top of the South Rim, visiting the bottom. 6 million people go to the Grand Canyon a year, less than 1% see the bottom, because you have to hike down there, hike across, and then 9 miles straight up. But getting my body in the condition it needed to be into made it doable, enjoyable, and I mean, it was hard, but transformation takes place when you put the work in. So I had a great week last week. That's where I was, and we'll do this again in 2 weeks.
Look at my shirt. I got to show you my shirt. Everybody thinks I'm wearing a Republican shirt, but this is my unapologetically dope shirt. I love that. I do not apologize for how dope I am.
And Sandy, it's always nice to see you here. Negativity is toxic. I choose to welcome positive people and thoughts in my life. Some days are easy and sometimes difficult. Well, there you go. Thank you.
I love it.
And then look what Donnie said. Donnie's like, this we were talking about the news. If it bleeds, it leads. Of course, right?
It took me a long time to stop watching the news, guys, because it's easier said than done. But let me tell you something. That is a detoxification that you need to all experience. You know, I had somebody, people get pissed at you if you say you don't watch the news. And I say, why should I watch the news? And they said, you should really watch the news so you know what's going on. And I said, well, you might want to try stopping to watch the news so you can see what's really going on in the idea of your family and the things that actually matter, you know. So always a blessing to be with you, my brother.
You too. Everybody, thanks for being here. We'll see you in a couple of weeks, and we'll see you on the bright side. Have an amazing day. Thank you.
Peace.
Peace.